Okay, quick question for you. When is the last time you actually used physical cash? Not a card, not your phone app, just, an actual paper note.
Hmm. It's probably been a while for most people, right?
Exactly. It's kind of amazing how quickly money's gone from something in your pocket to, well, something invisible.
It really has. We swipe, we scan, we tap. Value just moves.
And now you've got things like cryptocurrencies, blockchain. It feels like we're in the middle of another huge transformation, maybe the biggest one yet.
I think you could definitely argue that.
Hmm.
We're at this really fascinating point in, well, economic history. The whole way we deal with value, how we transact, it's shifting so fast, from physical stuff to purely digital signals.
Right. So let's unpack that for you. That's our mission for this deep dive. We want to trace this journey. How did we get from paper notes used for centuries to plastic cards?
And then from bank records to, well, these decentralized
Sure.
blockchain things.
Exactly. And explore why the future of money might not be printed on paper, or maybe not printed at all. Okay, so for ages, it was all about coins and paper. That was money. Solid,
An
tangible.
undisputed king, you could say.
Yeah. But then something started to change, almost quietly. Something new that didn't need ink or a printing press.
And the really interesting part, it wasn't Bitcoin that started it. It wasn't even the internet initially.
No. What was it then?
It actually goes back to the 1950s America. A simple piece of plastic.
Ah, the credit card.
Bingo. The Diners Club card, 1950. Started just for restaurants, believe it or not.
Really? Just restaurants?
Yeah, but the idea carrying this sort of promise to pay later instead of a wad of cash, it just caught on like wildfire.
I bet.
And pretty soon you had Visa, MasterCard, Amex,
Mhm.
you know the names. Suddenly buying things was just a swipe away.
But that wasn't just making things easier, was it? It feels like more than just convenience.
Oh, absolutely. It was a huge cultural shift. Think about the credit card boom in the 70s, 80s, 90s.
Right.
It gave people, well, instant purchasing power. You didn't need the cash right then.
Which sounds great, but there's always a flip side.
Always. This new money was also a new form of debt. Suddenly interest rates, credit scores,
Mhm.
these became household terms.
Yeah, financial discipline became a whole new ballgame. Or, the lack of it.
Precisely. And from a tech standpoint, credit cards were kind of the first big step towards digital money.
How so?
Well, every swipe sends signals, right?
Yeah.
Little digital messages zipping between banks, checking funds, approving things. It was an early kind of electronic data exchange.
Okay, that makes sense. Laying the groundwork.
Exactly. And that groundwork made the next step easier. Debit cards, linked straight to your bank account. Physical cash started to feel less necessary for daily stuff. So plastic was changing things, but then came the real game changer. The internet, late 90s, early 2000s.
Right. Online banking. Suddenly you could check your balance, pay bills, without going anywhere.
Yeah, though people were skeptical at first, you remember. Is it safe? Where's my money actually going?
Oh, definitely. Lots of nervousness.
But convenience, as it often does, eventually won out. It was just too easy.
And that must have fueled the rise of e-commerce, right? Companies like Amazon, eBay.
Absolutely. Your credit card wasn't just for local shop anymore. It was global.
You could buy anything from anywhere.
Pretty much.
Mm.
We were building this global financial network, really one click at a time. Then, fast forward to the 2010s, smartphones arrive. And everything speeds up again.
Mobile banking, payment apps.
Exactly. PayPal was early, but then Venmo, Google Pay, Apple Pay. In India, you have UPI, which is huge, with apps like PhonePe, Paytm.
Right, the QR codes and just sending money with a phone number.
It totally changed things.
Yeah.
Splitting bills instantly, paying someone back just like that. Money literally became, well, a data packet.
Just information flying around.
Pretty much. Zipping across the internet in seconds.
So let's pause there. When we say digital money, this invisible stuff,
Right.
what actually is it? Fundamentally.
Fundamentally, it's just information. It's a record. Think about sending, say, 500 euro using UPI, like we mentioned. No actual rupee notes are moving between phones.
Right.
All that's happening is a secure message goes from your bank's server to the receiver's bank server. It basically says, take 500 from her account ledger, add 500 to his.
So it's just updating the books electronically, instantly.
Exactly. Instantly.
Right.
It's incredibly efficient. It leaves a clear trail, a record, and crucially, it scales. You can do this billions of times a day for billions of people.
Okay, the efficiency is undeniable, super fast, super convenient. But this whole system, It relies on a few things working perfectly, doesn't it? There must be dependencies, risks.
Absolutely. That's the flip side you mentioned earlier. It's built on some critical pillars.
Like what?
Well, you need the internet,
Yeah.
obviously. You need electricity. And importantly, you need to trust the intermediaries.
The banks, the apps,
Yeah,
the governments behind them.
precisely. These are the trusted third parties.
Mm.
And that raises some big what-ifs. What if your bank's app goes down when you really need it? What if a central server gets hacked? What if, and this became a bigger concern, what if some authority, maybe unfairly, decides to just freeze your funds?
Ah, okay. So that lack of direct control, that reliance on intermediaries, that started to worry people.
It did, especially after the 2008 financial crisis, when trust in traditional institutions took a big hit. Those questions got louder. And that environment, that questioning, it paved the way for something radically different. Which brings us to 2008. Right in the aftermath of that crisis, an anonymous figure, or maybe group, Satoshi Nakamoto, publishes a paper.
The Bitcoin white paper, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system.
That's the one. And in 2009, the Bitcoin network actually launches.
So credit cards were a step, but Bitcoin, you said it earlier, kind of blew up the rule book. What was so different? How could it work without a bank or any middleman?
The core idea, the real genius, is the technology underneath it. Blockchain.
Okay, blockchain. Everyone's heard the word, but break it down simply.
Think of it like a shared public diary or ledger. Every single transaction is recorded in this diary.
And everyone can see it.
Everyone on the network, yes. And here's the clever part. Transactions are grouped into blocks. Once a block is full and verified by the network, it's sealed using cryptography and linked to the previous block.
Creating a chain.
Exactly, a blockchain. And because of that cryptographic link, once a block is added, you can't change it. You can't tamper with it. You can't erase it.
So it's permanent and transparent.
Permanent, transparent, and distributed. It's not stored in one place. Copies are held by computers all over the world.
And that's what removes the need for a bank, because the trust is built into the network itself.
Precisely. The trust comes from the transparency and the immutability of the code in the network, not from a central authority saying this transaction is valid. It enables peer-to-peer value transfer in a way that wasn't possible before.
Okay, so Bitcoin proved it could be done. Decentralized digital cash. What happened next? Did it just stop there?
Oh, not at all. Bitcoin opened the floodgates. We entered the era often called the cryptocurrency boom.
Right. Suddenly there were thousands of them.
Thousands. And some were really innovative. Ethereum was a huge one.
What did Ethereum do differently?
Ethereum introduced smart contracts. This was massive. It meant money wasn't just for sending and receiving. It could be programmable.
Programmable. What does that mean in practice?
It means you could build agreements directly into the code. Like, if this specific thing happens, then automatically release these funds to that person. No lawyers, no escrow needed for certain things. The code executes the contract.
Wow. Okay. That opens up a lot of possibilities.
Huge possibilities. Alongside Ethereum, you had Litecoin, Ripple, even things like Dogecoin, starting as a joke, but gaining traction. Countless others exploring different niches.
So the idea spread way beyond just digital cash.
Absolutely. People started looking at how these decentralized systems could change finance, yes, but also gaming, supply chain management, digital identity. You name it.
It sounds like a period of intense speculation and innovation.
It was both. Some definitely called it a bubble, pure hype. Others saw it as a fundamental revolution in technology and finance.
But regardless of which side you were on.
Regardless, the core idea of what money could be had changed. Forever, really.
Now, you can't have all this disruption happening without the traditional players noticing, right?
Yeah.
What were governments and central banks doing while all this crypto stuff was exploding?
They were definitely watching very closely. And that led to the development, or at least the exploration, of central bank digital currencies, CBDCs.
Okay, CBDCs. So the government's version of digital money.
Sort of. But there's a key difference. Unlike Bitcoin, CBDCs are not decentralized. Not at all. They're issued and controlled by the central bank, just like traditional fiat money.
So what's the point then? Why not just stick with the current digital systems?
They aim to combine the benefits. They want the speed and efficiency, maybe even the programmability features inspired by crypto.
But keeping the control that central banks have over traditional money.
Exactly. It's about modernizing the financial system on their own terms. We're seeing major projects like China's digital yuan, which is quite advanced. India's testing a digital rupee. Europe, the US, many others are running trials or doing research.
So the goal is to stay in charge, basically, while keeping up with the tech.
That seems to be the main driver, yes. Keep control, improve efficiency, and respond to the declining use of physical cash and the rise of private digital payments.
Okay, so we've gone from paper to plastic, plastic to internet, clicks to mobile taps, and now we're talking blockchain, crypto, CBDCs. Where does this all leave us? What's the future look like?
It's looking complex.
Will we be totally cashless soon?
Probably heading that way, yes. Cash use is dropping steadily in many places.
And will everyone be using Bitcoin or some other crypto?
Maybe not everyone, and maybe not exclusively Bitcoin, but the influence of crypto and blockchain, that's definitely here to stay. It's changed the conversation. What seems most likely, at least for the near future, is a kind of hybrid world,
Hybrid, meaning what?
meaning your digital wallet, or whatever we end up calling it, might hold a mix of things,
Right.
like your government's official digital currency, maybe some cryptocurrencies you hold for investment or specific uses, perhaps even tokenized assets, like a fraction of ownership in real estate, maybe even loyalty points, NFTs.
Wow, so a wallet holding different types of digital value.
Exactly. A much more dynamic, multi-layered financial life than just having cash or a bank balance.
So the takeaway is that money itself is changing its nature. It's becoming less physical, more intelligent, more global.
I think that's a great way to put it. Invisible, intelligent, global. It's shifting from being about the material, the coin, the paper, to being about the underlying systems. Trust, code, and speed.
It really is an incredible evolution when you step back. You think about
Where?
what clay tokens, cowries show.
Millennia ago.
Yeah.
Then metal coins, paper notes for centuries.
Then in just the last few decades, plastic cards, QR codes on our phones.
And now, yeah, blockchain, digital assets, things we're still figuring out. It's accelerating. And, the story of money, it's never just been about economics or technology in isolation.
What do you mean?
It's fundamentally a human story. It's about how we solve the problem of trusting each other enough to exchange value, how we innovate to build bigger, more complex economies, how we organize ourselves.
And digital money is just the next stage of that ongoing story.
Exactly. It's the latest chapter, and honestly, it feels like we're still writing the first few pages of it. There's a lot more to come.
So what does all this mean for you, for your finances, for the economy we all live in? That's a huge question. In our next deep dive, we're going to tackle a core piece of that: cryptocurrency versus traditional fiat money, head to head.
Yeah, how do they actually stack up? Where do they clash? Can they coexist? It should be interesting.
Definitely. So join us for that. Until then, keep questioning and keep learning.